Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So we find ourselves having the conversation that we didn't want to have. I wanted to be wrong, but I knew I was right. Dan Quinn addressed the media today, gave us an update on the injury status of both Terry McLaurin and Laremy Tunsil. None of it was good. Started with Terry, basically said that he aggravated the quad, which we already knew. I wanted to be wrong. I heard B. Mitch talking the other day about how he thought that Terry just was a little scared. He was a little spooked. That's why he looked like that on the sidelines, but he saw him jogging off the field after the game and he looked fine. And I'm like, when people say things like that, not that, again, I'm not upset at B. Mitch or anybody else that, said that he was fine. But it's the same thing we heard 2 weeks ago when it came to Jayden about, I saw him after the game in the locker room and he was fine. And it doesn't matter what someone looks like right after something happens. Like, ultimately, it's what it looks like the next day. And guys know, after you've experienced something, you know what it feels like when it's not right. Like Terry said at the onset of this was the first time he had been injured, so he didn't know how any of this worked. He had never really been injured before. We can attest to that. Terry's never really missed time in his NFL career. He's never dealt with an injury that's kept him out more than a week at a time. So this is something that's all new for him. But he's now had this quad injury for pretty much the duration of this season since week 3, and he knows what it feels like when it's not right. And that was the look of a man that knew this shit isn't right, and it feels like it felt the last time when I heard the shit. So when you see him over there fiddling around with his quad, pointing to his thigh, talking to the training staff, and then having that dejected, empty look on his face, you already knew. You already should have known, because I knew, and I told you, this isn't good. He's about to be out again, isn't he? And I was hoping that I was wrong. I was like, please let me be wrong. I want to be wrong. Make me wrong. Tell me that Laremy Tunsil's hamstring is A-okay and that he's playing on Sunday. Tell me I'm wrong. They couldn't tell me I was wrong. Now, Laremy Tunsil's day-to-day, we'll come back to Terry, put a pin in him and his situation. So is Matt Gay, who missed last week's game with a back issue. Neither one of them practiced today. Matt Gay, no one cares whether he kicks or not. We probably should care a little bit more, because if Matthew Wright is the answer, then we're wrong, okay? Speaking of which, in case you missed it, Matthew Gay was released from the practice squad today. And in his place, they brought back Robbie Chosen with the news of Terry McLaurin being out for Sunday's game. So Robbie Chosen back on the practice squad. And we have to assume he'll be suiting up on Sunday Night Football. Yay. Even though I like Robbie, I've told you guys this already. I like Robbie. I was actually disappointed that they cut him loose on Sunday, or I believe it was Sunday, maybe it was Monday, to make room for Matthew Wright. But all has been righted now that Matthew Wright is gone, because he's wrong. Now we have Robbie Chosen back. But ultimately, Tunsil isn't playing on Sunday, guys. You know that, right? Like, I don't have to tell you that. You understand how this works. They do the day-to-day thing. They say, hey, we'll reevaluate him later in the week. When has a guy played that didn't practice that they had to reevaluate later in the week other than Dorrance Armstrong? You find me a guy that they sounded optimistic about, because DQ doesn't sound optimistic about Laremy Tunsil. When Dorrance ended up playing, he sounded optimistic, even though Dorrance didn't practice. He sounded optimistic, and I still didn't think Dorrance was going to play. He ultimately did, and it didn't go well, but I didn't think he was going to play. He sounded dismissive of Duran's toe last week, so we knew he was going to play. But when he sounds like this, This means the guy isn't going to play. Oh, yeah. We're going to take it day by day. See how he feels later in the week. We already know how he's going to feel later in the week. He's not playing. Jayden said at his press conference, and we'll get to what he said later on, that he actually felt good enough to play. He felt like, again, you can't ask Jayden because he always feels like he can play. But he said he felt good enough to play later in the week. Our only hope is that Laremy Tunsil, too, feels good later on in the week and feels like he can then go. I doubt that seriously, however. This feels a lot like Jayden's situation, that he's going to miss a game, just like Jayden just missed a game, and then he'll be back and available for the Detroit game next week. But that doesn't help us this week in a must-win game, now does it? Brandon Coleman, you're up. Shit. Back to Terry. He's out. But for how long? Nobody knows. Here we go again with this shit. DQ sounded so somber. I felt so bad for him at the press conference. He feels like all of us with this Terry shit. I'll explain a little bit later when we get to his press conference, but you could tell he was dejected by the news of Terry getting hurt. He probably took that pretty rough when he first got the news that Terry had aggravated the quad. I had already come to grips with that on Monday night, but I was praying that I was wrong. But this is one of those situations where they're not going to put him on IR, just like the last time. But he's not playing this week. He ain't playing next week. And I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't play against the Dolphins over in Madrid, and we don't see him until post-bye. The only thing is this, I look at it just like the Patrick Surtain situation in Denver, where they probably should put him on IR, but if they did, that would mean he would have to miss the game against Washington. And they're not willing to do that, knowing that they have a bye week. The Broncos have the same bye week we do, week 12, and they come off the bye and they play us. So guess what? We're not going to catch the break of no Patrick Surtain. We never catch a break with teams and their best players being out. We always are the game where their best player comes back. CeeDee Lamb, for instance, with Dallas. It's always us. That's the first game that guy comes back and plays. We never get the benefit like we did last year, right? We always have our guys out of those games, and they always get their best players back in that game when we play teams. It's just always how it seems to go. Rashid Rice, we couldn't get the benefit of him not playing. He had to play against us, obviously. Anyway, I digress. What this means for us is don't look for Terry for the next month, roughly, right? Don't look for him until post-bye. That's what I'm telling myself in my mind. I'm not going to play this game of, is he playing this week? He's not playing until he actually plays. I learned my lesson from the last time. This shit sucks, but we can't control it. The injury reaper has wrecked our season, but I'm doubling down on my hopium. And this is the only hope that I have. 5 is returning this week. And we have to have early season DEEBO. Who? DEEBO. I'm going to just tuck mine in. We got to have early season DEEBO. The one that you had to tuck your chain in or your shit was getting snatched. We need that guy back. Not the DEEBO that was decoy DEEBO on Monday Night Football versus the Bears. Not the decoy DEEBO that we saw having footballs bouncing off of his damn face mask into the waiting arms of a defender, blowing up and destroying our opening drive and really killing any momentum that we were trying to build in the game. Not that DEEBO. I'm talking about Los Angeles Chargers, New York Giants week 1 DEEBO. That's the guy I need to see show up in week 9 with our season on the line. DEEBO. Who? DEEBO. That's if we're going to have any shot. At least this isn't Dallas, where we're asking Jayden to walk in and create a miracle with Robbie Chosen, Chris Moore, Luke McCaffrey, and Jalen Lane at wide receiver. At least this isn't that. At least we got DEEBO. Some semblance of a number 1 wide receiver. Some semblance of one. It may not be enough, but it gives us a fighting chance. But this shit sucks, man. Who are we kidding? But it's too late. I've already injected the hopium. So F it. We ball. Let's go get us a win on Sunday. In other news, DQ and Jayden spoke today. Let's talk about that because this is going to be a funky week with the injury report. I've told you this in previous games because we played teams out on the left coast this season, i.e. the Raiders, for instance, Chargers as well. The injury report is going to come out later because the Chargers, or excuse me, the Seahawks don't have to put theirs out until 7 o'clock our time. All right. 7 o'clock our time, 4 o'clock their time. So in essence, the injury report is going to come out later this week. Ours might come out on time. It did not come out on time today. And I don't know if the league may not mandate that their injury report comes out until Seattle's comes out. So we may not get ours until like 7 o'clock tonight, 6, 7 o'clock tonight. But, you know, I do my show before then. So we don't have an injury report, but we pretty much got the injury report for today. And, you know, the Wednesday injury report is some bullshit anyway, right? Because you're going to have 8 dudes up there, 6 of them don't actually have real injuries. That they're, you know, because we're an old ass roster. So got to give all of these grandpas a day off, right? Can't have old grandpa out there on Wednesday practicing. Somebody get me the oxygen tank. So we got 5 dudes up there on Wednesday who aren't practicing because they need their day off. So the injury report today was some bullshit. And we got the names of the guys that aren't practicing. That was important anyway. The only one we didn't get an update on is the one I told you. He's going to be fine. Don't worry about Javon Kinlaw. He's going to be fine. So we didn't get an update on him. But anyway, I digress. Let's get to what was said today at the press conference. We start with DQ, right? So DQ talked about the plan for Jayden. This week, he's going to practice in full. He's going to be somewhat limited today. He's actually going to practice it in full, but he's going to go through it at a, you know, slower speed. You know, they're going to kind of ramp him up. He's going to get some work after practice as well with the receivers, tight ends, running backs, and receivers, getting that extra work, that extra timing in with those guys to try to build a little bit more rapport with them going into this massive game. Everybody knows, like, no one's going to acknowledge that this is code red, but it's technically as orange as you can get. It's not red, but it's the most orange you can get before it's red, because you could not win this week and win next week, and you're still at the one win that you needed, technically speaking. Well, who thinks we're going to beat Detroit next week? No one thinks we're going to beat Detroit. This is the one you got to get. You're on national television. You're wearing the championship threads. You're doing it in front of a lot of the oldie but goodies who made this organization what it is. They're coming to see their man Arthur Monk's number retired. You got to show up and show out for the good of the game, right? For the championship era. You got to ball out. This is the one. You can't do it on Sunday night. It ain't getting done. Which he talked about later on. I might as well talk about it now. So he said it's pretty cool. You're wearing the championship era threads. You know, you're retiring Arthur Monk's number. It's a great night. We're home. It's Sunday night football. You know, we're so glad to be home. Remember, we've been on the road for 2 straight weeks. There's a lot of, you know, good feels right now. Not a nostalgia. None of that shit matters when you're riding a 3-game losing streak. You got to find a way to win. This is the one. We got to figure the shit out. So they're doing extra stuff with Terry. Extra stuff with Jayden. The extra time after practice, trying to get in sync, because clearly they haven't been in sync. He hasn't looked like himself since the Chicago game. And even then, there were some, you know, uncharacteristic mistakes, the fumble, the interception, but he was sharp that night throwing the football. He was dotting up the Bears when he wasn't making some sort of mistake. That's the last time this man looked sharp. He did not look sharp against the Dallas Cowboys because he didn't have half of his roster. Hopefully that looks a lot. Hopefully we're getting the Chargers Jayden in this game. That's what we can only expect and hope. He talked about the run game dilemma, and he said that the targeting was off, meaning identifying the guy you have to block and then putting your body on his. We did not do a good job of that. We struggle with fast-flowing defenses. Guys, like, again, Chris Paul, love him to death. He's not the fastest of foot. He's not the fleetest of foot. You know? And again, I got to watch the film. Like, I can't be out here assigning blame to anyone because I haven't watched. So I got to see what the hell's going on. But I trust DQ when he says we're not targeting properly. We're not getting our proper fits in the run game and putting a body on a body so that there's no holes in the run game, guys. There's nowhere to go. Like, look, I'm not telling you that Bill's out here. Like, early in the season, Bill was taking a 1 yard run, a play that was blocked for 1 yard and he was getting 3. A play that was blocked for 3 and he was getting 7. He's not doing that right now, but there is nothing. There is nothing that's going on up front. But that's what made Bill special, is the ability to and I do think in the back of his mind, he's more concerned with protecting the football than he is being special. I do think there's a bit of that going on. We got to get him back to saying, F it, I'm out here. I'm a ball. You know, you can do both. You can protect the football and be you all at the same time. But they got to block better. Damn it, they got to give our guy Bill some space to operate. So DQ gave us the injury report, an update. Terry out, Laramie Tunzel, Matt Gay, no practice for them today. I think Matt Gay probably kicks this week. They moved on from Matthew Wright because I think they feel good about Matt Gay coming back this week. He almost went last week. So I figure with the whole week of him getting treatment, and he'll be able to get out there. If he can't, they'll do what they did last week and just bring a kicker back in. Probably be Matthew Wright again, just bring him back right before the game. It's not like anybody else in the league is going to fight you over Matthew Wright. He'll be there, right? Gave us a Terry update, and he basically said Terry re-aggravated the quad on the play where he dove, that tremendous play on the sidelines that was overturned by review when he made the catch. They initially said he was out of bounds. He's such a wizard in those type of instances where he attacks the football, having to dive, all that good stuff. But it's the same thing we saw earlier in the season. That thumbnail that I have for this video of him extending for the touchdown against the Raiders in week 3, that's when he first injured the quad. And the sad part about it is that wasn't even a touchdown, which it was, but he wasn't credited with the touchdown. So he still doesn't have a touchdown well, he has one now. He didn't have one up until Monday night. But it's a shame that one play is hugely to blame for the struggles of this offense, because you see the difference Terry makes. And we only scored 7 points. Wasn't his fault. We wouldn't have even had 7 if it wasn't for Terry, right? DQ talked about simplifying the defensive results, or simplifying the defense and the results from that. And he said, look, he felt like they flew to the football faster, they tackled better, the communication was a little bit better, but he said it wasn't perfect. We know there's still breakdowns, things of that nature, but he does feel like they took a step in the right direction. But he said it's got to be for 4 quarters. It can't be for 2. It can't be for a half. That's not good enough. It's got to be from the start of the game to the finish. And we still haven't played a complete game this season yet. We don't know what that looks like with this team. The only consistency this team has shown us outside of special teams return units and coverage kick units is inconsistency. That is it. We have not been consistent in any facet of the game other than special teams. Even our kicker has been consistently inconsistent. So special teams has been consistent as hell this season. Everything else, inconsistent. We haven't had an entire game where we just dominated. We look like ourselves. We didn't look like ourselves against the Raiders till the second half, towards the end of the first half, right? We didn't look like ourselves at all versus the Giants in week 1. They just stunk. We haven't had a game this year where we've looked like ourselves from start to finish. He talked about Marshawn Lattimore. He said, quote, this was one of his best games, close quote, as a Commander. And I think most of us can attest to that. This wasn't a game where he didn't get thrown the football to, right? Like most weeks where he plays well, it's because he's not even targeted. When he played well in week 1, that was a game he got targeted and he played well against the Giants. Everybody got targeted and everybody did their job. Mikey had pass breakup. Trey Amos had 2 pass breakups. Marshawn Lattimore had 2 pass breakups in that game. Everybody did their job. It looked like the group that I thought it was going to be this season in week 1. And then the wheels fell off in week 2 and it never really got reassembled. You know? And so when he looked good in week 3 versus the Raiders, they didn't throw the ball at him. When he looked good in week 5 against the Chargers, they really didn't throw the ball at him. He recovered a fumble in that game. That was the most notable play. They really didn't throw the ball at him. This was a game where they actually tried and he said no. And I feel like it's because they told him, you play press, bro. You get up. You challenge. That's what you do best. So go be you. DQ misses Terry, bro. Like, they asked him about not having Terry in the lineup, and he paused for a second. He looked up into the air, and then he was like, that catch he made was incredible. Like, he's so good, right? And then he kind of shook his head like, some bullshit, bro. You can tell, like, this shit is eating him alive. Because he's just like me. DQ's just like me. I just wanted a chance, bro. Damn, I just wanted a chance. Every time I'm this close, my quarterback's back. Now my receiver's out. My receiver's back. Now my quarterback's out. I was this close to both of them being back on the field. And the injury reaper said, not so fast, my friend. I'm not done with you yet. I'm not done with you yet. He talked about life without Terry and Noah for Jayden, and he said, look, we got to adjust. That's the bottom line. Like, what do you want me to do? There ain't really shit else we can do. Like, this is our circumstances. These are the cards we were dealt. We got to play them hoes best way we can. And then they would ask him, was he going to go out and do anything at receiver? And he's like, nope. We got what we got, bro. We got what we got. So Robbie Chosen's back in the mix. At some point, I don't know when, but your guy, not my guy, your guy, Treylon Burks, probably get an opportunity. But you got DEEBO. He's going to have to step up. I talked about that at the top of the show. He's going to have to be the DEEBO we saw in week 1 against the Giants and the DEEBO we saw in week number 5 against the Chargers. We need that DEEBO to show up. If he does, we can win. We get decoy DEEBO, pack our season up. Pack that shit up. Pack the hopium up too. All of that shit's done. Identity crisis. DQ's talked about trying to establish an identity, and he's like, it starts at the beginning. And it's the same concept of you can't have it for a half, you can't have it for a quarter, you can't have it for a possession, you can't have it for a play. You got to have it for the entire game. You establish your identity from the opening kickoff, and that identity does not leave until the clock hits all zeros at the end of the 4th quarter. He talked about Terry's mental state. Again, this is a guy that's never been hurt in his career. You could tell that he was dejected about the injury. Then he was so happy when he was talking to the media last week about being back. And he talked about how he was kind of lost. He had never been here before. He had never been injured. He doesn't know how to handle this. Now he's injured again. He was so happy. Y'all saw the joy on that man's face when he was back out there making plays. Saw how happy he was to be back out on the field. I hurt for my guys. I really do. Conversations around the trade deadline. He talked about, conversations that he and AP have this time of the year. We're not doing shit, just so you know. He said, but most of this stuff is with the pro scouts. They're the ones looking around the league, seeing who might be available. They've got reports written on every single player that plays for other teams and other divisions. So if we're interested in a guy, they got a whole report. They can go through it. They can see some tape, see if this guy fits what they're trying to do, i.e. Marshawn Lattimore last year. He talked about the two things that he wanted to see get better, on defense to prevent big plays from happening. And the first thing was tackling, and the second thing was passing off routes, which we just don't do a very good job of. Our communication in passing off routes stinks. And so that looked like it was better on Monday night, but Mahomes just had too much damn time to throw. I don't give a shit how well you pass off routes. I don't care how well you communicate. You give a guy 17 seconds to throw the football, somebody's going to come open. Somebody's going to get open. But he said it wasn't perfect, which it wasn't. We still gave up big plays. But he said it was better. And he said the next thing we have to work on now is when the play breaks down, the extension of the play. We got beat with on the fourth down, an extension of the play by Mahomes. The Kelsey big catch and run was an extension of the play by Mahomes. The throw to Juju Smith-Schuster over the middle was an extension of the play by Mahomes. There were a lot of those where they covered well initially, play breaks down, somebody comes wide open, and big play happens. So that was DQ's presser in a nutshell. JD5's press conference. He talked about his mindset going into the final 9 games, and he shut that down. Was like, bro, we got Seattle on Sunday. That's the only game I'm concerned about. Try to go get a win. That's where my head is at right now. That is the perfect answer. You can't talk about the other 9 games of the season. You can't win 9 without winning 1 first. Gotta get this one. Talked about being on the sidelines in this game. And he said that, and basically what it boiled down to is he was healthier. In Atlanta earlier this season, he wasn't healthy enough to be on the sidelines. And maybe he did want to be there with his team to give them juice, as he said, and be a leader. Those are all things that did factor into that decision, but he was healthier. DQ wasn't going to allow him to stand on the sidelines if he couldn't protect himself. All right, that's just the bottom line to that. End of discussion. You're healthy enough, you can stand on the sideline. So if you got to move and get out of the way, you can do that. If you can't, you're not going to be there. So he talked about having Terry out again. He said, look, I can only control what I can control. Control the controllables. Get as much reps as I can in with the guys that are going to play. Try to be the best that I can be for my team. That's all I can do. It sucks for Terry. I hate it, but that's how it's got to be, right? He then talked about how good, when did he start feeling like himself again? He said he felt himself towards the end of last week heading into the game, but at that point, he had already been ruled out. He wasn't going to play, but he felt like he could, go last week towards the end of probably more like Friday, Saturday. He started to feel like himself, but they weren't going to chance it. And he said, look, they were just doing what was in the best interest of me long-term. So I feel like he's going to come out and play well. He talked about DEEBO's role, and he said, look, you saw what DEEBO could do in the Chargers game. We just got to find ways to get him the football. Like I said, we need DEEBO from week 1 against the Giants. We need DEEBO from week 5 versus the Chargers. If we don't get that DEEBO Samuel, we need DEEBO from week 4 versus Atlanta. Any of those DEEBOs will do, right? Dominant in week 1, dominant in week 4 versus Atlanta, dominant in week 5 versus the Chargers. Any of those DEEBOs get the job done for us. Any of those DEEBOs get the job done for us. And then he talked about, traveling to Kansas City. And I kind of talked about that already, that he felt like he needed to be there for his teammates. He said it's kind of foreign for him. He's really never been on the sidelines of a game that he wasn't playing in. Like, we've seen him on the sidelines. He was on the sideline against Carolina last year, but he played in that game, got injured, and came out. He was on the sidelines for the Dallas game in week 18, but that's because he came out of the game at halftime, right? But he's never been on the sidelines in civvies watching a game before in his career. So he said it was a little bit different for him, but he wanted to be there for Marcus, and he wanted to be there to help bring some juice. So that was Jayden's press conference from today. We're going to get a quick word from our sponsor of the show, Sleeper. Come back on the other side and get to our first look at the Seattle Seahawks. Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all of your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat in the games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips. Play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Sleeper. So we're back and we're getting our first look at the Seattle Seahawks. This is a 5-2 football team that will show up to Northwest Stadium on Sunday night, looking to continue their hot ways this season. They're coming off of a bye week. They're sporting one of the best records in the NFC. Obviously, they had a bye week, so they didn't play the 8 games that some of the other teams around the league, like, for instance, the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 6-2, have played. But when they went on their bye week, they were tied for the best record in the conference with Tampa Bay, with Philadelphia, with the 49ers, with the Rams. This is a team that has been playing with exceptional confidence. Sam Darnold is playing out of this world. Jackson Smith and Jigba is the best receiver in football this season, has been, along with Cooper Kupp, along with Puka Nacua. But no one's been putting up the numbers per, game. Like, Puka's putting up these crazy numbers, but he's doing it with 15, 16 catches. Jackson Smith and Jigba's blessing teams for 140, 170, 125, 150 with just 7, 8 catches, right? Every week, 5, 6, 7 catches. His average is up over 20 yards a catch. This guy's been a walking big play. This is the absolute worst receiver to be seeing right now with the defense that we put on the field. He's got to be licking his chops at the prospects of seeing guys like Mikey Samerstill and Marshawn Lattimore covering him. He's got to be seeing a 200-yard performance in his future. He's probably expecting to come in here and tear us a new one. They've got dynamic running backs and K9 who can take it the distance on any carry. They got a physical power back who in the red zone refuses to be denied the end zone. And Charbonnet, they have a tight end. Again, we keep being jealous of everyone's young tight end. They got a young, nasty tight end in Arroyo from Miami who's going to probably kick our ass. Like, there's so much on that offense. And I haven't even gotten to the defense that is uber talented. Nick Amanawari, a guy that we were all intrigued by out of South Carolina, is balling for that defense. They're going to get their star corner, Witherspoon, who's been out most of the season. Of course, they would get their star cornerback. Of course, they would get one of their best safeties in Love back this week, who's missed most of the season. Of course, those guys would be back against us. Why wouldn't they? Everybody gets their shit back against us. So we're going to get Devon Witherspoon. We're going to get Love back at the safety position to go along with guys like Okada, who's been balling in the absence of Love at the safety position. They got a diabolical head coach who draws up these crazy blitzes. He's one of these young, smart, innovative, defensive-minded coaches who are going to scheme shit up, confuse Jayden, or at least try to play a lot of zone coverage, keep everything in front, and then they're going to blitz the shit out of us. They stop the run. So our run issues are going to continue this week. I have no faith in our run game against this stout front. They stop the run. They got Leonard Williams. They got Jaron Reed. They got the kid from Texas that they drafted last year in the first round. They're loaded up front. They are absolutely loaded up front. The Edward Jones, the linebacker, is a stud. He's got like 3 interceptions this year. He flies around the football field. They got it at every position, bro. Tariq Woolen is a guy that I think we could exploit if Terry were here, but I don't know if DEEBO will exploit him or not. But ultimately, they got everything, bro. I mean, they got everything. Like, this is a tough challenge. Like, I only said we have to beat Seattle. I was never looking to demean Seattle in any way, shape, or form as if they're not nice. I was only saying that we have to beat Seattle because they were the lesser of the 3 evils, okay? Of the Kansas City Chiefs, Detroit Lions, and the Seattle Seahawks, they are the lesser of the 3 evils, okay? Detroit's better than Seattle. They've already proven that this season by beating them, right? Kansas City's better than Seattle. And so this is the one team you circle and say, if we're going to win one of the 3, this is the one. But it's not going to be easy because they're way, way, way more talented. And right now, they're better coached than we are as well. The only thing we can try to exploit is Sam Darnold, and he's playing at a really high level. But if you get to Sam, you rattle his cage. He's no different than Jared Goff. He's no different than Jared Goff. You can pull on. He's got on a mask right now. He's got on a mask right now. Right now, he's out here playing like Peyton Manning. He's in that pocket. He's cerebral. He knows where to go. He's getting that football out of his hands. But if you put some pressure on him and you pull off the mask, Sam Darnold, it's really Sam Darnold under there. I see ghost Sam Darnold. He's still in there. Did you see Monday Night Football against the... Now, we're not the Texans. Far from the Texans defense. I'm aware. They forced 4 turnovers. Darnold was really sloppy in that game. Okay? If the Texans had half an offense, they would have won that game. We're not them. So I don't have ideas of grandeur, and I'm not seeing Sam Darnold seeing ghosts in my head because we don't have the Texans pass rush. We don't have the Texans corners. Shit, we don't even have the Texans linebackers. So I'm aware that in order to get him to play at that level, you got to apply pressure, and that's just not who we are. But that's my one. I injected hopium, so I can't go back now. The only thing that I can do to feel like this hopium has a chance to actually work, this is the hopium talking. Because everything says that, hey, this is another ass whooping, bro. This is another. Hey, the Seahawks, they don't lose on the road under Mike McDonald. Like, they're better on the road than they are at home. Go check the tape. Right? Google Mike McDonald on the road as Seahawks coach. Google the shit. This game would have been better off in Seattle. We would have had a better shot if you're looking at the numbers. At this game being in Seattle than it being at home. But this the hopium talking. Hey, we can get to Sam Darnold, bro. We can get Sam to act up like we did Jared Goff in the playoffs last year. That's the hopium talking. I don't believe that shit. That's the hopium talking, though. That's our only hope. Don't let Kenneth Walker the third run all over you. Don't let Jackson Smith and Jigba go for 200 yards. If he just go for 130, we had a good night. That's what we got. We got to hope to hold this man to $130. We're in trouble on Saturday or Sunday night if we don't come with our A game from start to finish. But it's my only hope. We got to have this one. And I just got to trust that somehow the fella's going to go get it. Anyhow, I digress. Let's get to the comment section real quick, and then we'll get out of here. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. GT7 writes, they simplified, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, they simplified the defense and they still look confused sometimes. Maybe they need to play man and need to play 2-man and zone. Sheesh. Well, but you got to understand it was some guys' first time out there. So the mistakes are going to happen, right? The mistakes are going to happen. So you just got to keep giving them opportunities to get more comfortable. And then as they play more, maybe the mistakes they'll cease, right? That's the hope. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, PDSD isn't cured with many. Season ain't over. NFC records are tight. No Colts on this side. We just got to win one game at a time. We can't worry about nobody else. We can't worry about the hole we've dug ourselves. The only way to get out is to stop digging and start climbing. One game at a time. You keep climbing and then you look up and see how far you got to go, but you just got to start climbing. You got to stop digging and start climbing. It's got to start this week. Skins Fan 1989. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Writes, Terry's nice guy shtick was all an act. Trade him. Again, I can't go with that. Terry's my guy, and that's not a shtick. That's not an act. He's a great guy. He wanted his money. There's nothing wrong with wanting what you feel like you deserve. Anybody would do that for themselves. You would, if you don't advocate for yourselves, then I got nothing for you. You can't, if you're not going to advocate for yourself, then who will? So anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly News. I will be back later on tonight with Candy Waller of Bowie Sports, or Bowie TV, excuse me. We will be live for Seawall Wednesday. She got a lot to say about the current state of the Commanders and what she's seen from this team and what she thinks is going to happen moving forward. So we're going to get with Candy tonight and extract as much information from her as we can as we head into this most pivotal Week 9 matchup with the Seattle Seahawks. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys later on tonight, along with Candy. Should be a lot of fun. Hopefully you will be there. 8:30 p.m. tonight on the Louie T Network. Should be fun. Hopefully I'll see you there. Until then, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. You guys have a good one. Take care. God bless. Good night. Help us all. Here's some hopium for you. You're going to need it.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap. Hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone.